So in last week's video, I had discussed with you guys, in general, my guild's history when it came to raiding in Legion, and we actually went back a little bit into Warlords of Draenor, and I very briefly gave my thoughts regarding the Legion expansion. And the short version of both of these was very grindy at the beginning, gear, artifact power, legendaries, etc. Got a lot better eventually. And there's a lot of good things that happen, a lot of bad things that happen within Legion as far as my guild raiding and just in general. And moving forward, I am excited, and this is what I want to do with this video, is I want to talk to you guys about the future. Now, this was a video that was supposed to come out on Friday, and you guys, or at least it's being posted, on a Tuesday. Now, the reason why I hesitated, or at least held back from posting this video and actually doing this video, is there was a developer Q&A session that occurred, and I wanted to kind of make sure that a couple of my lingering questions were answered, or something was touched on regarding a couple of things before I had done a video about the future. Because if things changed, I didn't want to have to go back and talk to you guys about, oh, since this has changed, we're now going to revert a couple of things that I said last week, or I'm going to change guild policy because of it. I didn't want to do that. So I just wanted to hold off and wait a minute. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to break this video down into two sections. We're going to talk about my plans moving forward for the guild in general, and the raiding portion of my guild, and then we're going to talk about the YouTube channel. So the plans for my guild, I talked about, and I've been very vocal with you guys, whether it was the video about my guild's history or some of the more in-depth videos about some of the issues that my guild has had. Essentially, my guild has been very vocal, which I appreciate, via the guild survey that we did, and I did a video on that, about either their frustrations with their leadership, me and my officers, not pushing people, or those people themselves not being accountable and responsible for their own actions and not pushing themselves to be a better raider. Even in times where I've pointed out that, hey, you are not following these mechanics, the next week, same thing happens, where we can look at the logs, we can go over Warcraft logs, and look and see, you failed just as many times on this mechanic as you did last week, and no one else is failing to this mechanic. What do you not understand about it? My guild, my raiding folks were very vocal about their frustrations, and in general, in Legion, I had let a lot of stuff slide. Now, there are a few reasons behind it, and again, we've talked about it, where there is, I think raiders in general, a lot of them don't understand the issue that a guild leader or a raid leader comes in contact with. And it's essentially this weird, balancing act between, we don't have enough people to raid. If I sit this person, we're not going to have enough people to raid. But if I keep this person, people are going to get pissed off because he, she, they are causing issues. They're not performing. They're failing to mechanics. And the most simple solution, and we'll get into this here in a second, is why don't you puck? Well, then you generate this whole other issue of, okay, do you change loot? And some people say, well, yeah, you change loot because everybody should get a fair shot. Some of my raiders have said, no, you don't change loot. It's a guild run. Fuck those guys. They can, they're there. They got tokens. They can roll their coin and see what bonus loot they get. There's a whole host of different discussions and different opinions when other people are leading their raid. But my guild in general was very, very vocal, and me, I was very, after thinking about it and doing some soul searching, not happy about how people just simply weren't pushed. It's probably my biggest weakness as a leader, and I've mentioned it to you guys before. However, Battle for Azeroth is a reset. It is a reset for everybody. Me as a leader, as a guild and raid leader, you as a player, my officers, my raiders, whatever. It is a reset, which means that moving forward into Battle for Azeroth, I know that shit cannot slide. That problem players either need to be pushed to get better, or they need to be sat. And it's unfortunate, but if and I've talked about this, if we want to do the content that we want to do, which is mythic content, it's got to happen. If you are in a situation where your guild is doing heroic content, maybe it's okay for you as a raid leader to let your guys screw up a couple of times. But when you're in heroic content, probably not as much. When you're in mythic content, much less so. Now, the flex system helps with this, where I can say, hey, we have 15 people. You constantly are causing issues. You're not pulling your weight. I'm going to sit you. Fine. Yes, you may get these discussions. You may get these opinions of, well, the perfect raid balance is, whatever, 2, 4, 8, or etc. But the flex system in general is a good way of handling it. I personally need to be more committed and being more willing to pug players to replace those that are not pulling their weight, that are being detrimental. The reason for this is, if I can show you that we can find someone to replace you, that should incentivize you as a player to get better if you want to show up and not have your raid spot be given to some random dude on a different server. Now, the issue that I always had was loot. And again, we just talked about it. Where do I give people that just showed up pugs loot, or do I say screw them and have them all pissed off? Because I don't control loot, and you guys, some of you guys have mentioned, the concern of maybe not necessarily me in general, but the general feeling of raiders or raid leaders and guild leaders not being trustworthy. I can tell you that that's not the case for me, that I strive to be, trustworthy, to show and to have integrity. And we've talked about that. But it's how can I convince you other than showing you? But the loss of control over loot means it's one less thing to worry about. It means that there's one less thing, though, to incentivize my players to do better and to show up and to secure a raid spot. So I can instead say, look, if you're not going to perform, we're going to sit you, and we will replace you with a pug. And I think that that's a good way of doing it. I'm not excited about it, but given the alternative and given what I've got, it's what we're going to do. It's also, like I mentioned, a reset for players. I know that me especially and some of my other players have had kind of this weird jumping around when it came to mains. Whether it's we need a healer, we need a tank, we need this, we need that. Well, we don't have enough of this week, but we have too much next week. It's a reset. It also puts players on an equal footing. The weird thing and the bad thing for us was we gained a couple of new players at the end of the expansion, which is cool for roster problems. And I've mentioned that how frustrating it was to have roster problems, but it also meant that you have, some of my players who have been playing the same character, for the entirety of the expansion, who are like artifact level, I don't know, like 90, 95 or whatever. And then you have somebody that just started raiding who just hit artifact level 72. And they are still learning the guild. They're still learning, how we do things. They're still learning, the way that I run things. They're still learning people. They're still learning raid mechanics. They're still learning add-ons and all this stuff. And it resets gear. It resets, just everything. It puts everybody on an equal footing so that moving forward, we can go, look, there's no excuse when it comes to gear. I don't have control over it, and it's a new expansion, so you can't complain that, that X, Y, and Z have more than you. It's simply that you're not performing. And I think that this is a good thing. It's something that I'm excited about. Now, I've also talked to my officers, and I've talked to you guys about my officers, that they did have problems. Whether it be having a laid back approach, which again, I'm guilty of, playing around a little bit too much, which is a source of frustration for me, not showing up, not taking on the mantle of leadership. And I've laid out my expectations. My guild, like I said, they were very vocal and very much so about my officers. And you guys can check that video out regarding the guild survey on the channel. But I've laid out my expectations that, essentially it is this. show up, be a leader, help me out. If you find yourself in a situation where you don't want to be a leader, don't be a leader. And I think that that's something, if we go off on a tangent here for a second, I think that that's something that people are afraid of. That they go, I'm currently an officer or the raid leader or, even a guild leader. And when we've talked about this, some of you guys have emailed me or made comments in the video or in the comments in the video section. In the comment section below, and I've commented on it, that there's a fear that if I'm in charge now, I don't want to relinquish that power. Even if it's to the detriment of the guild. If I am, an empty vessel, if I'm not a leader, but I'm still the guild leader, that I don't want to relinquish that power. And that's not the way to do things. Give it up if you're not going to perform, if you don't want to do it. If you can't commit, don't do it. Anywho, getting back on track, getting off that tangent, I've laid down my expectations. Show up, do your job, help me out, don't dick around, perform, let's get shit done. Because I want to have a good time in BFA. And a lot of the frustrations were, people playing around, people just not showing up, people being frustrated, which frustrates me, complaints about things because we're not performing. So it all ties in together. Content-wise, my guild was very vocal, and I had also, I'm in this crowd. We want to do mythic content. The roster boss, again, it hit us very hard in Legion. There were a lot of issues, my fault and things that weren't under my control, that really caused us to not take as much time in mythic content. Again, I think that if we start in heroic content and we get some people gear, which is the plan, that we'll spend a couple of weeks in heroic content as it comes out, and then once the first 100 guilds have cleared mythic, whatever the rate tier is. Do you call it a rate tier anymore? Because you don't get tier gear. But once they've cleared that tier, we will then start pugging for mythic content. This is the change that I wasn't really wanting. I wasn't really expecting. Truthfully, I was hoping that they'd either make mythic rating flex or drop it down to 10 man or maybe even 15 man. But I think that that's a decent compromise. Not my first choice, but I'll take it. So we will be pugging for mythic content. I'm not looking to be a world first. I'm not looking to be a server first guild as far as mythic content. But I don't want to spend 6, 8, 12 weeks clearing out heroic Nighthold again and again and again and again. I don't want to do that. And that's something that was a source of frustration for everybody involved. That same shit, not progressing, and then we go into the next raid tier and we do it all over again. So we will pug for mythic, and this means that if you're not able to keep up, you will be sad. And yes, it sucks because there are some really great people that I love talking to, that I love hanging out with, that I love raiding when it comes to normal or when it comes to heroic. But that may be the cap for them. That may be the cap for me. Even though I don't think it is, because I've done great in mythic content, just to toot my own horn. But it's for the best of the guild. That's what everybody wants, and that's what me as a guild and raid leader, that is my job, and what my guild has charged me to do, is to do mythic content. Now, if we look at plans for this channel moving forward, there's no plan to stop making videos. The difficulty here in kind of this purgatory period is there's not a lot going on. Yes, I could do conspiracy videos or speculation videos, or I'm not really a lore guy, so I don't really talk a lot about the lore. There's a lot of different filler videos that, at least for my channel, because I'm not interested in a lot of things, there's a lot of things that I can do. But there's a lot of things that I don't want to do, that, filler content. I'm not going to talk about lore, speculation, conspiracies, beta, feedback and features added and taken away. It's something that I don't think you guys are coming here to get. Nobody's coming here for, news updates regarding, beta or the next tier or the next patch or whatever. Nobody's coming here for that. Now, a few things that we have done. Weak ores. this is a feature or a video series that I will continue going into Battle for Azeroth. Now, we did a lot of them. We kind of set the groundwork, but I put the series on hold for a second. And the reason for this is I don't think it made sense to continue to do a series where we're talking about weak ores, which directly means we're talking about abilities when we're gaining and losing abilities in Battle for Azeroth in the beta. So it wouldn't make sense to go, let me show you guys how to make a Rage of the Sleeper weak ore for your Guardian Druid for the next 3 weeks. It just doesn't make sense. So it's on hold for now. I don't want to just throw things out there and then you guys come back to check it out, in 6 months, and that weak ore no longer exists because that spell's gone. So it will start back up once we kind of get back into the live version of BFA, because there's a couple of things that I think you guys want to see. There's some things that I'm going to do, and I think that it's a really cool series, and I really appreciate Hannah for throwing the idea out there to me. Just in general, I think it's a really cool series. I still want to continue my series on add-ons in general, not just weak ores. Again, we kind of are in this weird purgatory period where do I want to talk about, some of you guys, actually quite a few of you guys have asked, let me see unit frames. Talk about your user interface. Again, this weird purgatory period where do I want to talk about unit frames when maybe in BFA, 3 different unit frame add-ons are no longer supported. Or maybe there's a really cool new one that comes out. And it's this weird, this waiting around for BFA. Now, one of the things that I've considered, and you guys let me know if you would like this, even though I don't think this is the primary source of content for you guys, at least for this channel, I did a class guide on the Guardian Druid. It was something that me personally, I enjoyed doing because I enjoyed playing the Guardian Druid. If you guys want to see something like that moving forward, let me know. I can definitely do them. I have no problem doing it. The only hesitation would be how easy will it be to get alts ready to, I guess, put them in a situation where I can honestly talk about, how the class plays, how the rotation, how is the class in general? Can I legitimately do a class guide if it takes months and months and months to get an alt up to snuff? The next one here, I think, is the one that I love most that you guys help me with. Questions from you guys. These scenarios of, hey, I'm having this issue with this player. I'm having this issue with, with my guild or this rating thing or whatever. What are your opinions on it? I love doing those videos, and I tell you guys that every single time I do one because I want to encourage you guys to continue to shoot me emails and comments and say, what would you do in this situation? It may not be the right answer to your question, but hopefully at least it will spark a discussion. And if nothing else, this channel is essentially meant to spark a discussion when it comes to leadership. Now, I do have a couple of other ideas floating around that I'm going to do. Some of them that you guys have messaged me and said, hey, you should do this. And I'm like, oh, well, that's a really good idea. Or, oh shit, I was already thinking about that. And now, at least one person wants to see it. But really, I guess the question is, what do you guys want to see? I've mentioned a couple of times here, moving forward into BFA, that this is not your primary source of X, Y, and Z. But ultimately, what do you guys want to see from this channel? There are a few things where I've done, we've done the class guides. We did one video where I leveled up my warrior, like half a level, the void elf or whatever. We did a video where I simply did a heroic, I think, maybe a mythic. I did a mythic or heroic run with my shaman, had the face cam. What do you guys want to see? What series, what ideas do you guys want to see moving forward into BFA? Let me know in the comment section, or you guys can email me. And until next time, guys, I'll see ya.